let's face it, we're all gonna die. Kind of like one of Ira's jokes. Here's the thing. Death, much like Disneyland and Valentine's Day, is just another way in which companies are trying to make money off of you under the auspices of it being a sentimental occasion. I mean, think about it. You get dressed up in black like you're going to a Smiths concert. You start crying like a battered housewife, and suddenly somebody is thrusting a contract under your nose for you to sign on the dotted line. The problem is this. Too many people are making money off of your rotting sack of flesh, and you're not seeing a piece of the action. So today, we'll discuss the problems of the 3 most common types of death ceremonies performed in the United States. First, the problems of burial. Second, the cost of cremation. And then, we'll examine why donating your body to science is making others so much money. And then, as a 4th point in a speech, ladies and gentlemen, a 4th point in an ADS, I will give you some solutions of how you can make money off of your rotting sack of flesh and how to go out with some style. Yes, even you. But before I begin, let me get a few statistics out of the way. Now, according to the CIA fact books, there are 2.5 million Americans who die each year. According to the National Funeral Directors of America, whose website, nfda.org, who keeps track of all things funeral, the average funeral cost is $7,000. That makes the funeral business a total of $18 billion a year. And for those of you keeping track of the numbers from speeches from last night, pornography is only a $10 billion industry. So with that in mind, why is the funeral business so bent? Well, according to Daryl J. Roberts, author of Prophets of Death, the most common death ceremony performed in the United States is still the classic burial. However, it's also the most expensive of the big 3. And think about it. You shop for weeks, sometimes months for a car. Hell, a computer can be just as long of a process. A simple cell phone requires one to investigate some prices. But with a national average of $7,000 per funeral, people are being taken to the cleaners. I think I missed a funeral joke there, but look, try to stay with me. The thing is this. Let's call a spade a spade. That's the funeral joke. Some of the coffins which they try to sell these people are lined with gold and bronze plating, and they're named things like eternal love and long-standing wishes, all in an effort to guilt you into the idea that you're not spending enough on your dead guy. Some of these caskets can cost up to $50,000. $50,000, that's the cost of a brand new luxury car, and you're going to put that in the ground? According to funeralripoffs.org, a website devoted to spreading the word about mortuary scams, some of these caskets which are sold, and some of the paraphernalia which is sold with them, include Asian silk linings and Egyptian cotton pillows with all sorts of fluffiness variations. They even provide an electronic warming device for those cold winter plots. For someone who's dead. They can't even feel it, and you're going to fork over a chunk of change so you can slow roast Grandpa until he's as tender as KFC? And you're not even going to shop around first? And one of the other items which many mortuary homes are trying to sell is something called a sealer casket. Now, sealer caskets essentially have a rubber plug that goes along the outside of the casket to keep all the bugs out. But what many funeral directors aren't telling you is that the pressure still builds up inside the coffin, making the body become as explosive as Mexican diarrhea. Yeah, nothing says, I love you, like blowing up bad. Look, here's the thing. If my family shelled out a quarter of 100 large on me after I was dead, I'd come back as a zombie and kick some ass. I mean, seriously, the only person who's ever going to see your grave or your coffin is your grave robber. So let's go with the tried and true pine wood box, which retails for about $30 at your nearest Home Depot. Some assembly required. But if you do have to have that one shiny black casket, shop for it online, or at least visit more than one local dealer. I mean, there's nothing wrong with finding the best prices and letting your family know where they are. But what if you're saying to yourself, Robert, I don't want to be buried, I want to be cremated? As far as cremation goes, it could be even more of a ripoff. You see, cremation services range from about the $40 mark to the $4,000 mark for the same service, the burning of the body. Now that's not for any bells or whistles, like, I don't know, say an urn. No, that's just to get them to throw you in the oven like a pizza pie and ash you up like a Jew in German. I know. Leave it to the Jews to come up with a thrifty way to cremate themselves right in the middle of a war. Wait, there's more. Most states force you to pay a containment fee, which essentially forces you to purchase a coffin to be burned inside of. I'm going to repeat that. You are buying a coffin to burn. Some of these coffins range from about the $500 mark to the $5,000 mark. I can't understand this. You're getting burned twice. There's something else. Many mortuary homes aren't telling you that there are numerous ways in which your beloved can be switched. In other words, you can't even be certain that you're getting back the ashes of your loved one. According to CNN.com, a case in Noble, Georgia from February 2002 revealed that a crematorium owner was stacking the bodies of the dead in and around the area and was giving what appeared to be ashes to family members, but what turned out to be wood chips and concrete dust. His excuse for not cremating the bodies? Oh, the oven was broken. Apparently, it had been broken since the mid-1990s, and he never bothered to call anybody to come fix it. To make matters even worse, when investigators began investigating the case, they found that the crematorium was in perfect working order. So basically, he was too lazy to burn the bodies. Which, forgive me for sounding glib here, but doesn't that sound like a really dark episode of I Love Lucy? You know, like the bodies are coming down the conveyor belt, and she's stacking, and she's hiding, and she's eating, and Lucy, you got some explaining to do. Or is that just me? All right, what about donating your body to science? The idea here being that you fork over your body for research, which will inevitably save some small child's life, or at the very least, you get sent to a community college where some pre-med students snicker while they look at you splayed out on a table. See, the problem is this. When donating your body to science, you can't specify where you want it to go, only where you don't want it to go. And as Mary Roach, author of Stiff, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers, states in her book, many of these bodies are being sold for profit. Companies which are performing weird, freaky experiments that most of us don't even want to think about. I'm going to force you to think about them because I'm just that kind of asshole. See, some of these experiments include testing landmines on these cadavers. But you know, the whole slogan of, hey, donate your body to science, where we blow it up in this weird experiment where we test the impacts of hand grenades on internal organs, doesn't have that certain je ne sais quoi to get people to sign up. However, as Mary Roach states in her book, the difference between handing your body over to test landmine ammunitions and handing it over to an anatomy class is really only the span of time. One lasts a split second, the other one lasts an entire year. Either way, you end up looking pretty much about the same. While Mary Roach is correct, the thing that she and the donation centers are telling you is that your body will be sold for a profit. When you think about it, they're not exactly testing the comfort of Reebok sneakers on these bodies. No, they're testing things like landmine ammunitions, hand grenades, and car crashes. But then they don't want you thinking about that or the money being made off of your body. So with that in mind, how do we regain the capitalistic aspect of death? Well, a man by the name of Gunther Van Hagens might have an idea. With a name like Gunther, you know he's a nerd, so he spent a lot of time being alone, creepy, thinking about this kind of stuff. Well, Gunther has developed a process called plastinization. Now, plastinization is the process in which all of the water in the human body is removed. A plastic substance is injected in its place, the body is then molded, stripped of its flesh so that its innards are exposed, and then put on display at an art gallery, the proceeds of which go to fund the Institute for Plastinization, a nonprofit research organization dedicated to exhibiting the human body. Now, Van Hagen's exhibit right now is making its U.S. tour. It's aptly titled Bodies. So many cities have requested an exhibit of this type that even Dow Corning has stepped to the challenge and produced their own line of the plastic dead. Both companies are paying a pretty penny to people willing to donate their bodies, but there is one catch. As of now, Van Hagen's has only plastinized Chinese donors, which is just great, because now we have to import our corpses from China. All right, what have we learned today? Well, we've learned that a coffin is basically an overpriced box. Kind of like Paris Hilton. My favorite joke. We've also learned that cremation can burn the living just as much as the dead. And finally, we've examined that when donating your body to science, hope that you can't look down and see what's going on to it. But most importantly, we've come up with a possible solution. And whether you want to become a member of the plastic dead or whether you want your ashes scattered over the Ukraine, it's important to remember, we need to discuss this stuff now. For example, an episode of The Anna Nicole Show, which seemed a lot more relevant when she was still alive. I can't believe that I used The Anna Nicole Show as a reference, but I did. And in that show, they stated that Anna Nicole's late husband didn't specify what he wanted done with his ashes. So they were split up amongst his children and Anna Nicole Smith, which could suck because you don't know if you got, like, you know, an arm or half the head or what. And that could really suck because, you know what, if all you got were ashes of the butt. All right, we've discussed it. And you need to discuss this when you leave today. I mean, this isn't something you wait until you're 74 to do. Death can hit at any moment. By making preparations now, you allow your family to grieve and not worry about being ripped off. Remember, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're not in control. But it does mean that you're still dead, and that sucks.